Welcome, one and all, to the long, illustrious history of cross-dressing in theater. I'm going to be talking about how the practice of cross-dressing, or rather cross-gender acting, has changed throughout early theater history. While researching, I found that men predominantly played all roles in theater, but there were some notable exceptions, specifically in Japanese theater, and as you go further and further on, you find women actually flipping that script a little bit. So let's get into it. So let's start with ancient Greece, home to a pantheon of incredible gods dedicated to different subjects. One of the 12 Olympians is Dionysus, commonly known as the wine and party guy, but he evolves into the god of theater, because at a festival in his honor, they started doing what we now recognize as the beginnings of theater. These productions often included the Maenads, his rabid pack of fangirls that would tear you apart with your bare hands if you looked at him funny. But interestingly enough, women weren't allowed to play them because it was too dangerous. Generally, being a woman in ancient Greece was not fun. You couldn't own property, you weren't a full citizen, you had to do what your husband told you to do. So, it kind of makes sense that they wouldn't be allowed to act. So, jumping forward many, many, many years, we get to the Elizabethan Shakespearean era from the mid-1500s to early 1600s in England. Women were not allowed by law to perform for similar reasons to the ancient Greeks. They were supposed to be these subservient, virtuous mothers and wives, and of course a pious when women want to participate in something so immoral as theater, heaven forbid. So men would play all the roles, which in Shakespeare's case leads to this interesting phenomenon. See, in Shakespeare there's lots of gender shenanigans, specifically women in the play dressing as men. So it would lead to this phenomenon where a boy would be playing a girl playing a boy. Notable roles like this are Portia from The Merchant of Venice, Rosalind from As You Like It, and Viola from Twelfth Night. Now let's jump to kabuki theater in Japan. It originated 1600-ish. And originally it was actually all girls. It started by this girl named Izumo no Ukoni. I hope it's called Onna Kabuki, or female kabuki. And it was very, very, very popular. It was this entertainment for the common people versus the more hoity-toity no theater that had been in place for centuries. People from all classes would come to red light districts to see this kabuki show of these usually sex workers that would play risque stories and with lots of dancing. But this changed in 1630-ish, where men started playing all of the roles, and it shifted to a more structured, polite theater. And even today, traditional kabuki theater troupes are comprised only of men. So why did this shift? The shogunate, or the military, kind of took more control in the government at this time. And because the shows were so risque, they were banned. It was possibly because it was a hotbed of danger, thought, and freedom, and it was an immoral influence and all these things. So the shogunate had no declared as the official theater, and kabuki kind of faded a little bit at that time, which is kind of interesting and kind of sad. So as I mentioned before, as you get closer and closer to 1900, women start flipping the script. More women are allowed to act and be playwrights, and you even get some notable exceptions to the general rule where women play male parts. Two of these women I'm going to talk about, the first of which is Lucia Elizabeth Vestris. She was an English actress. She lived from 1797 to 1856. And she was this contralto opera singer. Contralto was the lowest a female voice can physically sing. So she was physically able to sing male parts. And she did. She played Don Giovanni in 1820, which created a bit of a scandal because apparently the costume she wore showed off her perfect legs. So she kind of got this rap for being scandalous, but she played many male roles throughout her career, which I find very, very interesting. Similarly, Sarah Bernhardt was a French actress in 1844 to 1923. And she kind of did everything. She was an actress, she owned a theater, and she even played Hamlet once. She played Hamlet in 1899, to great reviews in Paris, but mixed reviews in London. It was said that her Hamlet was obviously a girl, but it didn't diminish from the character at all, which is very, very cool to me. So, in conclusion, men usually played all the roles in previous theater, but there were notable exceptions, especially in kabuki theater in Japan. And as time went on, it became more and more socially acceptable for girls to act, and then as you get closer to 1900, you see girls playing male roles, which is there are many, many modern examples of cross-gender acting. Peter Pan, for one, is often played by a woman. In the 2017 revival of Once on This Island, the Mother Earth character is played by a gender non-conforming person, which, if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it in the description. It is so, so good. Tracy's mom in Hairspray is always played by a guy. And in theater nowadays, especially high school theater, you'll see that girls tend to outnumber guys. And so, if you're a female high schooler doing theater, it's very, very common for you to play at least one male role in your high school career, most likely multiple. So, yeah, there's a lot of very interesting things to do with gender and cross-dressing, and theater's a very wide world with lots of different things that I didn't have time to cover at all. But yeah, I had fun, and I'll see you guys next time.